Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's masterclass. My name is Jamie. Thanks for joining me. Today, we have a really exciting class on raw vegan cheesecakes. So, thanks for tuning in. Hope you got the recipe there ready to go. And if you can all hear me okay, if you can all see me okay, give me some thumbs up. And we shall get going very shortly. We got a nice, about 45 minutes, 30 to 45-minute masterclass today. I'm going to teach you all you need to know how to make your own healthier raw vegan cheesecakes at home. So all okay, everybody can see us, everyone's tuned in, thumbs up, nice one. Okay, great. So I'm going to cover one cheesecake in today's class. And while I'm covering that one cheesecake, I'm going to introduce other techniques and other flavor variations on how you can make limitless amounts of other types of healthier vegan cheesecakes. Now, when I say healthier, notice when I say healthy and healthier. Cheesecakes originally, going back to the day I grew up, my mom used to make homemade cheesecakes. My job as the commie chef used to be to get all the digestive biscuits in a bag, and my mom would have me jumping on top of the bag to crush all the biscuits. This is before we had fancy blenders and all that sort of stuff. So it kept me busy, and it made me do my little work and play my part in the cheesecake. My mom used to make the most delicious, like lime cheesecakes. Really amazing, really great memories. Now, if I ate them cheesecakes every week, every day up till now, I would be quite a large guy. So we cannot eat. They're a luxury. I wouldn't even say a luxury, but they are nice, but they're not particularly healthy. So I come in with a much healthier vegan version. When I say healthier, it means we cannot eat it every day and we cannot eat the full cheesecake. So again, everything in moderation. And now, there's nothing in here that's bad either. I'm going to go through every ingredient in here. So it's all good, fresh, wholesome ingredients. So today's masterclass is going to be on the vegan key lime cheesecake. It's kind of a key lime is a very familiar dish over in America. A lot of history in the dish. It's a very loved pie all over America. Lots of cream and sugar, and I think eggs are in the original form, but not healthy at all. So I've taken the kind of flavor essence of a key lime pie and imparted it onto a healthier raw vegan cheesecake. So there's two kind of techniques you need to know about the recipe. One is the base. So the base obviously is going to emulate the old traditional digestive biscuits with melted butter is the original one. So we're doing a far, far, far healthier version of that. No digestive biscuits here, no melted butter. So what we're using is, so in the recipe I've provided you, I've got pumpkin seeds, we've got cashew nuts, we've got some dates as a natural sweetener, but also helps bind everything together as well. And then there's some cashew nuts in there, and I have some spirulina. So spirulina is the green color we're imparting in this key lime cheesecake, but it also brings a lot of protein, a lot of minerals, a lot of antioxidants, loads of good nutrition. This is a very good local spirulina from Phuket that I use in a lot of my recipes. It's grown very naturally, so the taste is very mild and very pleasant compared to other spirulinas, which are quite pungent and a little bit overpowering. So I've adapted this recipe a little bit. I have no cashew nuts, so I've just added some peanuts instead. So this base is very, very, very versatile. Basically, it's a mix of seeds, nuts, and dried fruit. And then you can add in any different like spices or seasoning, whether it's vanilla or cinnamon. In this case, I'm adding some spirulina. You can add acai berry, you can add raw cacao, you can add loads of different seasonings. Now, I don't add any liquid sweetener in here because the dates provide that base, which is fine. I don't add any coconut oil in the base either, because when it's out of the fridge, the coconut oil melts very quickly and then your base will drop. So we want quite a dry mix here as the base. So what we're going to do to make the base is going to be the first part of the recipe. I'm going to blitz all that together and show you how to line the cheesecake tin. I got a nice cheesecake tin here. I don't know how big it is. It's about 10 inch, 11 inch, I think, or not that big. That's the size anyways, compared to my hand. So that'll be the first stage. And then just to talk you through the recipe, I'm going to leave that in the freezer then to set up. You can do this step the day before. So I'm going to leave that in the freezer after I make it. And then on to the main cheesecake base. Now, there's no actual cheese in this. Traditional cheesecakes, all that Philadelphia cream cheese and mascarpone and you know, the baked New York cheesecakes, or you have the different types of cheesecakes, you know, they are nice, they are indulgent, you know, but they're not good for us. We shouldn't be eating that stuff. End of story. Here's the healthier version. So in place of the cheese element, we need a creamy white element. And for that, I'm going to use cashew nuts that have actually been soaked overnight. It's a very key step. So if you haven't soaked them now, sorry, it is better. You can speed up the process by pouring boiling water over it, and that speeds it up. But you do need to have soaked, activated cashew nuts. They're much easier on the digestion, and they're much softer and creamier. So they blend to a nice mousse better. So that's the core element. And then also for some nice creaminess and, you know, the key lime pie and the green, we're going to add some nice ripe avocado, about a ripe avocado. And then we need some lubrication. We need some moisture in there. So I'm going to use a plant milk. Today I have a pistachio milk. You can use any type of plant milk. Make sure it's kind of, you know, a neutral tasting one. Some of the almond milks nowadays, they have a little bit of artificial flavor in it, and it can be very overpowering. So use a very neutral, bland tasting plant milk. You could use a coconut milk by all means as well. And then we need something to flavor it with. We need sweet and sour to like lift it up. So we're going to use some maple syrup and some lime juice. So for a liquid sweetener, you can use a date syrup or honey or maple, but use a good quality liquid sweetener. That'll like boost it all up. And then on the other side, to balance that, you need some acidity. So either lemon juice or lime juice. So for this recipe, key lime pie, we're going to use lime juice. So that provides a sweet and sour element and balances it nicely. We wanted it a little bit more on the sour edge, but then that's personal preference, how sweet and sour you want it. So you can adapt it accordingly. And also depending on the plant milk you use, some plant milks have a little bit of sweetener in them already. So you can reduce your maple or honey addition. And then we need something to set it. We need something to set it up firm. So traditionally gelatine is used in cheesecakes. Obviously we're not using any gelatine here. There's a few different ways of setting vegan cheesecakes, which I'll introduce you to now. The first one we're using today, the one I'm using today is coconut oil, a really good quality cold pressed virgin coconut oil, a really good one. And it's quite a little bit aromatic as well. So you got a nice flavor in there too. And that adds to the overall flavor of the finished product. So there's 90 milliliters of coconut oil for the whole recipe. And I think there's 8 to 10 slices. So per portion, there's like 8 to 10 grams, something like that per portion. And, you know, it's a good quality oil. I know there's conflicting reports online. Is coconut oil good for us? Is it bad for us? Is it high fat? Is it, you know, there's all these conflicting reports, but I use it as a setting agent in the cheesecakes because when coconut oil goes in the fridge, it goes rock hard solid. So that's what's going to set them. Now, alternatives, if you don't want to use coconut oil, another variation, you can use cacao butter. Cacao butter is like chunks of cacao. When you melt it, it goes like a liquid butter, and then you can add that back into the cheesecake and mix it. And when that sets, that goes quite firm as well. There's not much taste out of cacao butter, and I do think coconut oil is a healthier fat to use. So other variations you can use is tapioca flour, tapioca starch, but then it's not going to be a raw cheesecake. It's going to be more like a cooked cheesecake. And what we do is we take the cashew nuts and the milk and we blend them, and then we heat them up in a saucepan with a little bit of tapioca starch, and that helps cook it out. So then when we blend all the ingredients together and set it, it'll set up quite firm. So that's another option. And instead of, and just while we're talking about variations, just so you have an overall understanding of how like vegan cheesecakes work and so on, there is variations if you want to avoid nuts. So cashew nuts are our central core component here for this technique of vegan cheesecakes. If you are avoiding nuts or allergic or want to reduce them or for whatever reason, the other options you can use is a soft tofu. So you can use a nice soft silken tofu. Make sure you drain it first on paper towel. There's a lot of water in tofu, so you want to drain the excess water first. And silken tofu is very bland. There's not much flavor to it, but it's very creamy. So what you can do then is just use the silken tofu as the base and blend in all your other ingredients, and then use either your coconut oil or your cocoa butter or use your tapioca starch cooked method and proceed as normal. So they're all little variations around the recipe. Like every recipe, you know, there's always variations. And I love that about cooking is that, you know, there are no limits really, but it is good to have a good understanding of the foundation principles and how they work. And then there are variations and so on. So that's the overview. And then on the top, then when we have I'm going to blend all that together. Basically, it's just a matter of putting it all in a blender, cover your ears and blend the daylights out of it until it's really silky smooth. And then we're going to pour that on top of the cheesecake base and then leave that into the fridge to set for a little while. And then we want to garnish it. So I'm going to garnish, usually I garnish this with mango. They're out of season here in Phuket at the moment. So I'm going to use some kiwi. Kiwi is nice and green. It kind of fits with the green element of the key lime pie cheesecake mix. And then some avocado as well, some fresh avocado on top. And then for a little color contrast and nice flavor, some toasted black and white sesame seeds. So you can kind of get creative then and use different fresh fruits on top. You can add berries and whatever's kind of in season. I got some beautiful passion fruit here, the biggest passion fruit I have ever seen in my life here. I'm looking forward to crack them open. And I'm going to put a little bit of them on top as well. The passion fruit helps cut through the richness of the tart quite well. So that's where we're at. That's the overview of the recipe. If we have any questions, jump in now. We are taking messages through the chat area here. My lovely sous chef assistant is in the background here, making sure everything is running smooth and making sure everyone can hear me, see me. And yeah, so we shall get started. Okay, so first step, we have the pumpkin seeds and the cashew nuts and the dried dates and the spirulina. We're going to blend it all together in here. So I just have a little variation. I got no desiccated coconut. The recipe I handed out today, I have no desiccated coconut. I've used oats instead. And this is a good example of how flexible this recipe is. So if you don't have one thing on the recipe, don't worry, you can still make it. You just need to make an adjustment. So I've used some oats, some simple rolled oats instead of the desiccated coconut. And instead of the cashew nuts, I've used some peanuts. So basically you can use any peanuts, seeds and nuts you want. Dried fruit, dates, I have soaked in a little bit of warm water. They're quite dry. Some dates can be very dry. So if they are, just give them a soak with some warm water. And then I'm going to add in the spirulina. Okay, and then all in the container. So we're ready. Let's go in with the nuts and the coconut and the pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds, a real nutrition powerhouse, loads of good minerals, loads of protein, loads of antioxidants. And okay, so all in, everything in. I'm thinking here, do I do it another way? Do I complicate it? No, keep it simple. So I think this is a 3-gram sachet of spirulina. Again, if you don't have spirulina, don't worry, it's an optional thing. So block your ears if you got headphones on or if you're close to the computer. This is going to get a little loud. So I want to blend this I go a bit slowly. I don't want to turn it to a butter. Like making seed butter and nut butters, you make them in a blender by churning it slowly and all the natural oils come out. So I want to give it a good blend so that everything kind of starts to turn to a butter, but not too much of a butter. It just helps to form a nice kind of pliable base. Okay, so here we go. So I'm just using the top. There's a great attachment because I get into the corner. I get into each corner, so I'm kind of like rotating all the mix so to keep it moving. How are we doing? So one thing I forgot there, some lime zest. I love adding little bits of lime zest, orange zest, lemon zest into my like desserts and so on and so forth. It just gives a nice little kind of citrusy lift. And it's all these small touches in cooking. you know, like anything, cooking is not just one thing done right. Cooking is all the small little things done right on the lead up results in a nice finished product. So focusing on these little small things make a big difference. Yummy. Perfecto. We'll take it to another level. A little bit of lime zest in there, or orange zest if you have it, it'll be nice, or even lemon. So I'm going to give that one more quick little blitz and we're done. Now, how easy was that? Simple. So these are like energy ball things as well, you know, so if you can always double up this recipe and roll them into little balls and roll them in some desiccated coconut or some raw cacao and keep them in the fridge for little energy snacks when you come back from the gym or come back from a walk or a hike or just to have with a tea or coffee during the day. Right, next step. This is the fun part. So I have a nice kind of removable pie base here, easy enough to get online. Can you pass me the ruler there and I'll check what size they are? Please. So you can do like small ones like this. These freeze very well, actually, by the way. If you want to make these and like the, you know, the freeze very good. So what have we got? Centimeter. This is like a 20 centimeter. So yeah, about a 20 centimeter pie mix with a removable base. And I do not line it with any parchment paper or anything like that. Because what we're going to do, I'm going to chill it in the freezer. When I have all the everything in it, I'm going to chill it down in the freezer before I turn it out. And it comes out nicely. Trust me on this, it's going to work. I've done this before. Okay, I'm going to... The easiest way to do this, I find, is by hand, you know, so wear some gloves. Optional, you don't have to, but, you know, if you're touching anything a lot with your hands, it's always good to, you know, be hygienic. Especially, I make this for guests a lot. I make two or three of these cheesecakes per week on special request. So I always, you know, use gloves and nice and safe. So I've all the mix in here in the base. And now what we want to do, you want to turn the music on and you want to just put your phone on airplane mode for 10 minutes it's like a 10-minute meditation of just forming the base, the foundation of your cheesecake. There's no baking involved in this. It does not need to be baked. It's all raw. And you're very much, you're feeling like the thickness of making sure the whole layer of the cheesecake is a nice even thickness, because you don't want to slice it and have like really thin bits and then really thick bits. So what I do is I work my way out from the middle and then I turn the base around a little bit. And it should be nice and pliable, kind of a little bit like Play-Doh, although Play-Doh is very sticky. But it's easy to work with, easy to form. If it's too dry and too crumbly at this stage, you've probably not blended it enough. So pop it back into your blender for another 20 seconds. It should be nice and kind of doughy, almost like a pastry, yeah. Lovely, thank you. And I've got my blender. If you've got a sous chef or a kitchen help or an apprentice in your kitchen, you can kindly ask them to wash the blender out. It's okay. I'll leave it here. And if you have time, you can always do 2 or 3 of these up and keep them in the freezer. Wrap them in cling film and keep them in the freezer. And then, you know, you're one step closer to having like your vegan cheesecake. All you got to do then is make the mix. And I'm going to talk about later, like after I make this, when I'm making the cheesecake filling here, I'm going to talk about flavor variations and all the different beautiful flavors you can make, from chocolate to pineapple, to mango, to acai berry, to blueberry, strawberry, dragon fruit, coconut. You know, there's no limits to the variations you can do on this. So the first time I was introduced to this recipe was actually by my little sister. As I've been a traditionally trained chef. Cheesecakes as I knew it were, you know, all the recipes I used to do were milk, cream, eggs, sugar based. And, you know, making vegan cheesecakes isn't a part of the whole Michelin star repertoire or anything like that. And I was back visiting my sister one time, and she was getting into all this healthy baking and everything. She even starting her own holistic baker little thing, making cakes and everything for her friends and office workers. And then I was helping her make a cake one day. She was blitzing down these soaked cashew nuts and blueberries. And I was like, what? What's this you're making? And truly delicious, you know? And I was a chef of 15, 16 years at that time. And I'm learning something from my sister, who is not a chef. And it just goes to show, you know, we can learn and we can get inspiration everywhere from anybody. One of my old chefs used to tell me, you know, you can even learn from the worst chef in the world. They might not be good at most things, but there's some things that they know that you don't know. So it's always good to be open to learning. So what I'm at now, as you can see, I want to have, you can't see too much, but I want to have the base coming right up along over the edge to make a really nice encased kind of base for the cheesecake, because we've got a lot of filling to pour in. And if you take your time to get this done right now, well, then the finished cake, when you slice through it and everything, you'll have a much nicer, smoother, refined cake. So I'm working up a bit of a sweat here. It's quite hard work. I wouldn't say hard work, but you know, it does take a bit of effort. It reminds me of making sauerkraut, massaging the cabbage. So I'm still working my way out from the middle, and just bit by bit, I'm forming a nice edge as well. And then I'm kind of rolling my finger around the kind of lip in the middle, or at the edge, to create a nice, even shape. Nice and green here. One for St. Patrick's Day. Okay, nearly there. How are we getting on, everybody? Is anyone making the cake with me? Any questions? All good? If your cake tin is a little bit bigger, and your mix doesn't fill up over the top, don't worry, just do it all flat, then pour the mix in, but we need to make sure it's like frozen solid before you take the cheesecake out of the base. Okay, nearly there. It's worth taking the time. It really is worth taking the time. It's really satisfying, you know, when you get something so perfect. When you take the time. And I'm just pushing it down a little bit as well here, just to get a nice, even lip at the top. How's sound doing? Okay. Oh, it's like a workout. Okay, we're just about there now. Jules. And then you can run around your fingers, because you'll have a little bit of heat here from like the friction of your hands. So you should be able to like just slide your fingers along a little bit and get it nice and smooth. And there we have it, done. Bam. There's a little work of art. It was worth it. How long did that take? About 10 minutes? It's worth it. Yeah, just make sure it's not too thin around the edges as well. Because if it's very thin around the edges, it'll be quite fragile. Done. Okay, into the freezer. Bam, thank you. Into the freezer, let it cool down as much as possible. Ready for the mix. Okay. Ooh. Okay, well done, guys. Okay, for the mix, round 2. So we got our smoked cashew nuts, 200 gram, I think. We got our limes. I'm going to squeeze them and add them in. I got a plant milk, about 100 milliliters. We've got our maple syrup, I think 80 grams of maple. I'm going to use about half of this avocado. I got a little bit of salt. Remember, avocado is very bland, cashew nuts very bland. We don't want to taste the salt, but we just want a pinch just to liven everything up, just to bring it to life. And then some spirulina for the color as well. And then the last element I'm going to add, I'm going to blend all these and get it smooth. And then I'm going to pour in the coconut oil and get it nice and silky smooth at the end. And then I'm going to spatula that. I got a nice thin spatula here. I'm going to spatula it all in here. And then I'm going to do a final tasting in here. I'm going to taste it, maybe add some more lime, some more salt, some more honey. I'm just going to balance the flavors here before I pour it in the cheesecake mold. So we need a little bit of lime juice. Now I know there is you can buy lime juice in the shop, pre-juiced. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I know it's convenience, but anything that can sit on your shelf in the dry stores and last for a year, you know, it's been pasteurized. Like these jiffy little lemons. I know they're convenient. You keep them in the fridge and it's easy to squeeze. It's convenient. I get that. But these are shortcuts that the food industry want us to make to, you know, to buy their products. So, you know, there's still vitamins in here, in lime juice and lemon juice. There's still vitamins, antioxidants. It's a really healthy, nutritional juice to add. And that's what I really love about this recipe is that everything in here has a nutritional benefit, from the base and all the seeds and the nuts to the good fats and the coconut oil to the avocado, even the salt. So please, yeah, the little adding the fresh lime juice, it just tastes better and it's actually healthier as well. Smells so good. The recipe says 4 limes, but then limes can be this size, limes can be that size. Limes have different amounts of juice in them. So I'm not going to add all of them now. I'm going to add like maybe 3/4 of them. And then I can always add in more at the end. So I'm just going to leave like 1 lime back for after. Okay, in with the plant milk, in with your maple or honey. Yum. And avocado. Nice. It's nice and soft. You want a nice ripe avocado? That helps with the nice creamy richness of it as well. Is that everything in? And then a small pinch of salt. And then I'm going to keep the salt and lime here for seasoning at the end. And that's it, everything in. Oh yeah, spirulina. Where's my spirulina? Spirulina's gone in already, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, and the spirulina. I'm going to add in about 2 grams of that, not all of it. Again, I can add in a bit more near the end. If you don't like spirulina, or the spirulina you have isn't a particularly good brand, you can leave it out. Essentially, the spirulina here is for the color and also for the nutrition. Like when I add stuff to a recipe, it tends to be for both, for nutrition and color and so on. So block your ears. We want to get this really smooth. So the idea with this, we don't want to overheat it. If you overheat this, it'll start to turn brown as well. Like the friction from blenders can make things cook and heat them up and turn them brown. So we want to be quick with it and not be too long and get it nice and smooth. We want it really silky smooth. And then like all things I do, you know, clean as you go. And we get ready for our next stage. So the next stage will be the lime, the salt, the tasting. I got the bowl ready. And then I haven't added the coconut oil yet, okay? I want to get it all silky smooth and then pour in the coconut oil to get a nice voluptuous puree. Okay, ready? Full blast. Woohoo! Okay, so if you notice, I give it some good welly. The more you move it around, the more it kind of just gets moving in the blender, and the quicker it blends and the smoother it gets. Because them cashew nuts do need a good blitz. Yummy. So it's not very smooth yet. I'm going to add another 10 seconds just to get it really smooth. It's worth the extra little blend. Okay, she's looking smooth now. She's looking green. And I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And I just add in the coconut oil as the blender is going to get a nice smooth consistency. Crank it up. Beautiful. That's it. Done. Easy. Do a couple of shot glasses down there as well, please. So if you use this blender a lot, a spatula is really helpful. A nice small spatula, because it's really hard to get in between the blade and get everything out. I like to get everything out. So just help it along. And there it is, ladies and gents. We have a nice key lime mix. Obviously, it's still very wet, but when that goes in the fridge and sets up, it's going to go a nice moussey consistency. So I'll talk very shortly as well. I want to introduce different variations, and then I also want to talk about setting it, how long you need to leave it to set, and how to set it and how to turn it out. So we're going to taste test. I always taste about 3 times. Just imagine you're eating a lot of it. It's nice. There's a little bit of acidity. There's a little bit of sweetness. Spirulina is not overpowering. I think it's a little bit more lime I'm getting here. I add a little bit more salt too, just the salt. Remember, salt and changes the acidity as well, a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of lime, and what else? I think that's going to be it. Then we'll have another taste and see. That's good. It's not too sour. It's not too sweet. I'll get my, it's always good to have a second opinion. Thumbs up in the background. Good, so that's the mix. So I'm going to talk a little bit about flavor variations you can do instead of key lime as I'm popping the mix into the ring. So chocolate is another good one. You can add some raw cacao powder to this recipe. You can leave the avocado in, or you can leave it out. I would reduce the lime content and maybe add some fresh orange juice as a natural sweetener, because cacao is a little bit bitter naturally. Raw cacao is quite bitter. So I would leave the spirulina out, reduce the lime, and then add in some raw cacao. And you could also add in a spoon of peanut butter or a spoon of almond butter, just as a kind of a chocolate peanut butter variation. You could also add in some vanilla to that. So that's one variation, the chocolate one. What other one could we do? Berries. Berries work really well with this. So instead of blending in avocado like I did here, you can blend in some strawberries or raspberries or blackberries or blueberries or a combination of them all. So that's another variation. Just keep in mind the acidity and the sharpness of berries will vary depending on time of year, depending on they're fresh or they're frozen. So just adjust with a little bit of sweetener, a little bit of lemon juice to balance it all out. So berries, that's another one. Mango and pineapple are really good cheesecake flavors. You can blend in some fresh mango, or instead of where I added in the avocado, just add in some fresh mango. But what I would say, if you're adding mango and pineapple to these raw cheesecakes, it's good to cook them out in advance. So you can dice up all your mango and your pineapple pulp and roast them, caramelize them down. No sugar at all, just kind of roast them and cook them. And then blend that to a puree and add that into the cheesecake when you're blending it. Technically, it's not going to be raw, but it will prevent the fruit from fermenting in your cheesecake, because raw pineapple and raw mango, after a couple of days, will start to ferment and turn sour. So you can cook them beforehand for a nicer flavor variation. Coconut is another nice flavor. Add in some fresh coconut meat, some coconut milk, and you got a beautiful coconut cheesecake. Any other variations? Matcha is another good one. You can add in some matcha green tea powder. I've also done pumpkin cheesecakes where I've added cooked pumpkin puree in and blended that down. That's another variation. Add in some pumpkin spice. So as you can see, there's probably lots more I could think of, but that's where your creativity can come in as well. Once you have the understanding of the principles, you can add in other items. And another little tip before we go is when you're blending your cheesecake mousse, when you're like I just did there a minute ago, what you can do is blend it all down, and then you can take half of this mousse and put it into another bowl, and you can add in some like raw cacao or add in some frozen berry pulp so that you have two different mixes, if you know what I mean. So then you can do a layered cheesecake. You can put one layer at the bottom and then you can put the other layer on the top, or you can pour in the two bowls at the same time to have more of a kind of a ripple effect. So I do that when I'm doing mixed berry or raspberry cheesecakes. I'll blend down the cashew nuts and the coconut oil and the milk and the seasonings, and I'll have a nice white cheesecake mix. And then I'll pour all that out and I'll leave half of it. I'll put half of it back in the blender with the berries and blend that down. So I got a nice pink raspberry or purple blackberry mix. So then I've got the white mix and the purple mix, and then I bring them together and I either layer them up or ripple them in together. So that's just another little tip you can do. Another little tip, if you want to do little mini cheesecakes, I didn't say, what you can do is before you make the cheesecake mix, you can put a little bit of mix down at the bottom here, and then add a couple of spoonfuls into, you can do some shot glass size if you're having a party, or you can do like bigger, like tumbler glasses, and you can layer it up. You can layer it up with some of the filling, the base. You can add the mousse mix. You can add some diced mango, diced avocado, and then you set them in the fridge. And then it's easy. You just need to pull them out and you can decorate them with a little bit of strawberry or whatnot. And you have a beautiful, easy, nice little entertaining dessert ready for your guests. So here we go. It's ready to go. Wee. All in. And just flatten it out. You can give it a little tap just to get any air bubbles or air little pockets out. Little tap is good. And that's it. If you have a fork sometimes as well, you can do some designs. But I'm just going to leave that flat. But a few little things on top is nice. So as it's setting, it's got a little bit of character to it. Boom. And voila, there we have our key lime cheesecake. So obviously it's not set yet. I'm going to, Tara, if you can put that in the freezer again, please. So let's talk about setting cheesecakes, because it's another very vital step. So as you can see, it's quite a simple technique, but you do need to get each element correct along the way so that the finished product is nice, like everything in cooking. So for setting it, the best thing to do is make it the day before you need it. So this is going to be set beautifully for tomorrow, because it takes a while for all the cashew nuts and the coconut oil like to set up firm. So I advise leaving it in the fridge. It's better to set it in the fridge. Now, some people will set their cheesecake in the freezer, but what's happened then, it's like it's freezing it. It hasn't had time to set. So I like to leave it. I know I put it in the freezer here now just for a few minutes to speed it up, but essentially I would leave it in the fridge and let the coconut oil and the cashew nuts set naturally. And then I can transfer it to the freezer. And in the freezer, taking it out from the freezer to portion it is a lot easier, because you can, when it's frozen solid, you can pop it out of the cheesecake tin and garnish it nicely and cut it into beautiful portions. And then it takes only maybe 5 or 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes for the cheesecake to defrost at room temperature. And especially here, where I'm in a warm climate here, like they melt very quickly. So I do advise, so just to recap, I'll set it in the fridge overnight. And then you can either cut it from there, but it's much easier if you just transfer it to the freezer, even for an hour or two, to let it firm up, solid, pop it out of the cheesecake base. And then I put it on a tray, some sort of tray that it's easy to cut. You don't want to move it along too much, because the more you move it, it is a little bit fragile. So just leave it on the base so you can cut it easily. So just quickly, I'll do a few little demo. I'm going to, while it's setting up in the freezer, like on a quick fire set, I'm going to get some the avocado nut. I'm going to get some garnish ready for the top. So this is where you can get creative really and add whatever's in season. Think about the color, like it's a nice green color. So raspberries will go nice, some strawberries, some blueberries, blackberries, mangoes, or the avocado is nice as well, since there's avocado in the dish. Since we're here in Thailand and I got beautiful passion fruit, I'm going to put a few passion fruit seeds on top. And I like adding passion fruit to stuff like a rich cheesecake, because it just cuts through the rich element. Ooh, gets the taste buds going. It's a nice sour. So I'll slice up the kiwi and the avocado. And then I have the toasted black and white sesame seeds. And I think that's going to be it then. Yeah, that's a good tip. I'll give you another tip for avocado. We all know when avocado gets cut, it'll start to oxidize, because the oxygen in the air is getting at the cells are broken where they're cut, so it will start to go brown. So when I'm making a guacamole, I'll always put loads of fresh lime or fresh lemon into the guacamole. Like I love a really sour guacamole, but that also preserves it and keeps it nice and green. The acid in the lemon and lime keep it nice and green. So what I do here as well, another little trick, if you're cutting avocado that you're not going to use straight away, just rinse it in a little bit of water first. And whatever science and magic is happening, whatever it happens, it just prevents it from going brown. Top tip. How will I cut this? Will I cut it? I cut it round. So you want to show off your knife skills here as well on the top. Like when you bring a cake to a table or when you bring a cake to a party, it's always kind of a showpiece. Everyone is like, wow. There's whole Instagram channels and whole TV channels in America dedicated to cake decorating. I've seen some cakes that you wouldn't even know they're cake. They're works of art. I don't know how healthy they'd be, but it's nice to take the time and just like put a little bit of garnish on top, and it doesn't need to be too complicated. But with fruit, I like to do some nice thinly, very thinly sliced. And then when you slice it really thinly, it kind of comes like a fan. You know, you can play around with it a little bit. So I'm going to add this to the top. And then I have the berries, and then avocado as well I'll cut. I'm going to cut the avocado into little, I cut them into dice or slice? Let's slice. We'll leave one on top. And I put a little dice on these as well, will I? And I'm going to decorate my little mini cheesecakes as well. I'm going to do a little small bit of dice. And then I think, you know, as I'm cooking, I'm always thinking that like, it's nice to be creative and think as you go as well. And like cooking is very much like, it's a feeling, it's an intuition. You go with how you feel, you have the ingredients you're working with, and improvise. Sometimes it's nice to improvise and just try something new. So I'm just going to mix the passion fruit with the avocado here and make a kind of a little, I wouldn't say salsa, but just a little mix here. And that'll all be flavored nicely. And then I'm just going to top this on top of our little mini cheesecakes. And that's going to be delicious. You can just imagine eating that after it's set. And then I'll add a little bit of toasted sesame seeds, but I won't cover all the top of it. I'm just going to put the sesame seeds on one little area. So there's a little bit of contrast. Whereas if I pour it all the way over the top, it just covers everything. So I just keep it to one side. Now, there are little mini cheesecakes. So can you pass me the base al tartar, please? So how long did that take? What are we on? 50 minutes, yeah. It's still a little wet. The mix is still a little wet. This is the kind of thing you kind of leave it in the fridge to set up, and you can garnish it just before you serve it. I'm just going to garnish it up now so we have a little idea of what I'm doing. So I make a little fan out of the avocado. Plonk that there. And how do we do this? I'm going to, the line looks so nice. I'm going to go around in a circle. I'm going to go around in a circle. Again, I'm improvising here. I'm making it up as I go along. Every time I do a cheesecake, it looks different every time. The base is still the same, but the garnish will always be slightly different. That's yummy. And what else have we got? We've got the seeds. There's that there. A bit more avocado. And then some seeds. So passion fruit seeds stick together quite a bit. So what you can do, put them in a little bit of a bowl first and mix them around just to break them up. And just scatter them around. And a few sesame seeds and we're good to go. All over? Yeah. All over. It's raining sesame seeds here. So I've taught vegan cheesecakes at cookery schools back in England and that, and it's beautiful. Like it's the same recipe. Everyone will have the same recipe, but when everybody brings their cheesecake up at the end of class, you've got 10 completely different recipes. And I think that's quite a nice thing about cooking in that, you know, follow the base recipe, but then you always have your own little variation on the recipe. And then I'm going to add some lime zest to take it to another level. From a high, just to show off. Just nice and fine. Raining lime zest. And what about nuts? What nuts have we got? Pecan? Pecan? And we can do a little few nuts as well. Optional. Sometimes messy can look nice. It looks like I'm just throwing things on here, but actually there is a little bit of, I used to call it rustic refinement. And it is, because sometimes things, we try to make them look too much precision. Any little flaw will make it look like that it's not nice. But the rustic refinement is kind of just a little bit more kind of abstract, you would say, and it's kind of just a little bit. But if I'm going to put the picture on this later, so you have a much close up of how this looks, but it's really beautiful. You know, garnished with the kiwi and the avocado, the pecan nuts, the passion fruit, the lime zest, and the toasted black and white sesame seeds. So still a little moist, might be ready for dinner. If not, we'll hold off until tomorrow. And that's it. That's our raw vegan cheesecake masterclass complete. If we have any questions, you can type them in. Any questions coming through, Tara? Did they follow the recipe? If it's watery, I would say, like, if you follow that recipe, it is a little wet, but it should set up in the fridge with the coconut oil once it sets up firm. Another thing that can go wrong is if when you soak the cashew nuts and when you drain them, if you don't drain the cashew nuts enough, they'll have a lot of water in them. So then your recipe might be a little wetter than it should be. So just watch out that the cashew nuts are drained well. And that's it. If we don't have any other questions, we'll finish up for today. I got a few pots and pans to wash. And thank you everybody for tuning in. It's really nice to share this technique with you. I hope you can make some healthier cheesecakes at home and enjoy the benefits. And next up we're off to Great Britain next Saturday. We're doing a British masterclass. We're going to do good old fish and chips in a vegan form with tartar sauce and mushy peas and some roasted fries and all that. So beautiful. We're going to be making fish, not fish. It's going to be made from either jackfruit or banana blossom fried in a nice beer batter. And then next week, we've got a healthy salads and dressings masterclass. So a really good class to teach you how to make healthy vinaigrettes and sauces at home. All the condiments we buy in the supermarket, whether it's vinaigrettes or ketchup or they're loaded with additives, preservatives, sweeteners, hydrogenated fats, and so on. And they're quite expensive. So I want to teach you and show you, introduce you to how you can make your own healthy and far more delicious sauces at home. And then a few other classes beyond that. I'm writing the schedule as well for October, November, December. Lots of Christmas content coming up, Thanksgiving, Christmas, veganery coming up. So lots of exciting things this time of year coming into autumn, winter. It's a time when people are starting to cook more at home. So hope to see you all on more classes down the line. In the meantime, until the next class, thanks for tuning in and good luck on the vegan raw cheesecakes.